Good night, everyone. Tonight, God is good and God is good all the time. My name is Summer Jill Spiritual. I'm going to give you a word on tonight. And the title going to be David and Nabal and Gabrielle. It's a husband and wife. The wife going to be nice and the husband going to be mean. It's going to come from 1 Samuel 25, 1 through 44. So now Samuel died. He died, and all Israel assembly, they mourned for him, and they buried him at his home, and then David moved into the desert, apparently. So Saul was the king, but Samuel had been the nation's spiritual leader. Saul was the king, but Samuel was a spiritual leader because he was more contacted with God. So as a young boy and an older man, Samuel was always careful to listen to and obey the Lord. When Samuel is gone, Israel will be without a spiritual leadership, until David, become king. So David moved down into the desert, after Samuel had died, among a certain man that's rich, and there who had proper camels, and he was very wealthy. That this man was wealthy, 1,000 goats and 3,000 sheep, and his name was Nabal, and his wife name was Gabrielle. Now she was intelligent. Now David said she was intelligent and she was a beautiful woman. But her husband, he said her husband, was mean. Said her husband was mean. And his dealing, was a Canaanite. So this man David said, he's mean. Meaning his name mean fool. And he gonna act just like what his name mean. And two, his wife, he said, she intelligent, beautiful woman, and her name was Gabrielle, and she not only a good understanding, but also will have discernment. So now we know when David was young, by he work in the field, so now David was in the wilderness and he heard that this man, Nabal, that was sharing sheep. That's what David do. Sharing the sheep, which was always a time of open and handle hospitality among the flocks and master. So David showing kindness. Now David had just moved there now. He seen the field untended. He seen the sheep and everything in the field untended. So he watching over the sheep to make sure none get missing. So now he just wanted me to let them know I've been watching over the sheets and stuff like that. Could you just be nice and show some kindness to my men, who out here, been wandering around, and then they're gonna have the festival going, and then he rich. Now David gonna have like 600 men with him, so greet him in my name, So now David showing kindness. David gonna send 10 young men. He gonna send 10 of his men and say to him, go up to now this rich man, camels, and greet him in my name. So he said, greet this man in my name, and all David doing is showing kindness, to go and greet in his name. Remember, David said, this is a rich man. Meaning, so he will see how we will see how this would go. So not David, David didn't, David wants to say, a long life to you. So good. Now see, this what he's telling his men to go tell. Let him know long life, to you, good health to you and your household, and good health to all that is yours. So see, this was David, this good works. So David was sending this through his messages to him. So now David is telling his men to say what he did in his kindness in his fear. So the sheep sharing time. So when your shepherd were with us, we did not mistreat it. So he let him know we did not mistreat your shepherd, your shepherd, your sheep. You know. So the whole time they was at the camel, then nothing of there was missing. Because they would watch over. He made sure nothing was missing. He made sure they didn't ran off the field and wandered off nowhere. He took care of it. He didn't treat it. He treated good and everything else. So tell them to ask your own servants, and they will tell you. And some of his servants was there. So that's what they were saying. Tell his servants, you know, uh, that everything was good. We took care of him. We treat the sheep or none of that. So he said, even your servant was there. They can tell you. So therefore be favorable towards my men. Be favorable towards my men. So we did all this here, and since we come at a festival time, these give your servants and your son David whatever you can to find for them. So when David men arrived, they give Nabal this message and David's name, and then they waited to see what he said. So now David men delivered this message. This rich man and David's name, so remember, this man means so we'll see what Nabal response would be. Because David did say he's mean. So the Israelites celebrate the festivals, on a community scale. So anyone who was invited, who was invited. Now David had seek help for them. And he made a point of reminding this rich man that it is a sheep shivering time, the festival time. So as the flock's owner, part of the purpose of this rich man's celebration is to share his boundary with those who attend. So that's why David went to him. Because when you have the festival, anyone that was invited to this festival, you know, he was supposed to show hospitality to these people. He the host. So and David had feel that his men have earned the right to join the festival by protecting his flocks. So he had plentiful to give, so there was no excuse. He was rich. He already had a festival going on, so he had plenty of food, plenty of gifts, or whatever the case was. He had enough. Even though David had 600 men, this man still was rich. He still had enough to feed David men. That was at his festival. So anybody was at his festival, he was supposed to show hospitality. He was supposed to show that. And so he used excuse. So now this is a rich man, and he refused to help and give. So when God bless us, when you rich, God bless us to be a blessing to someone else. Not have it all for yourself and don't want to share. This was a rich man, and he refused to help. And God didn't give you riches to keep for yourself. You have to share that and bless someone that needs to be blessed. So God will bless some of us to be a blessing, in return. He only asks that we open our heart and hand to others. So this rich man answered. Now he answered back. Now David's servant never being now he being sarcastic. He being sarcastic. He said, "Who is David? Who is the son of Jesse?" Now first he said he didn't know who David was. So how he know who his father was, Jesse? So many servants are breaking away from their master, because a lot of them, his employees saying he mean also that you can't even more reasonable with him or try to talk with him. So he stated, why should I take my bread and my water, and my children and give it to your men? They're coming from who knows where. Now that's me. That's me, So never he was rude. He refused David's request to feed his 600 men. He refused to show hospitality, demanding that travelers any number of them be fed? He said, why should I feed your man? Why should I do anything for your man? And this is a rich person talking. So Nabal was very rich, and he could have easily afford to meet David's requests. So now when so even though David had 600 men, but this man here was very rich. And so David wasn't asking for a handout. David wasn't asking for a handout. David and his men had been protected Northern workforce. They've been protecting his field. Because he haven't been in the field for a while. His servant was there, so they know how they was being nice to his sheep that was in the field. So we should be governor with those, who protect us and help us prosper, even if we are not obligated to do so by law. Now you see, David he was not obligated, but he was just being nice because that's his skill. When he was a boy, when God had came there to anoint him, where he was at? He was in the field. So that's his skill. He wasn't obligated to do that. He did bite his tail and started doing it. So we are not obligated to do so by law, but David moved next door and he was not obligated, but he took care of the rich man's farm, but he did. So we see that the man was not nice. Now we see that David did say this man was mean. So we see firsthand he being sarcastic. Now who is David? Who is the son of Jesse? Why should I feed your people? Why should I give your man food and water? Why should I do that? Because you were supposed to be nice and you were supposed to show hospitality because it was in your festival. So David men had turned around and went back. I mean, somebody rude like that, I turn around too. Turn around and go back to your house. So they reported every word to David. So David said, what to his men? David had told his men, each of you scrap. So David had said what? They was telling him what this man said. So David said what? He said what? David told his men, okay, y'all get scrapped. Y'all get each one of y'all get scrapped. So David got scrapped also. In his own way. He had 400. He had 600. He started out. So he had 400 to take with him, and he left 200 by the watch supplies. So now David had 600 men, but he took 400 with him, 200 to stay behind to watch his supplies. And now this rich man, mean. Just like David said, someone is showing kindness on his field, and David wasn't looking for a handout but hospitality. Even when David's 600 men, he still was able to feed David men. So now, this man told him what this man said. So now he was very disrespectful. He was very rude, and he was being very sarcastic. Now, who is David? So being rude and sarcastic is not good at all. And now David and his men is ready to take out his whole household from him being mean and sarcastic. Now, one of the servants had told Gabriel, your husband, that David had sent messages from the wilderness, to give our master, greetings, but he heard it and he insult, David men, he assaulted them, and he said that these men was very good to us. Now he said, ask your servant that was there, so now the servant's telling the wife, that he treated us nice, he did not mistreat us, nothing was missing. So now this was one of Nabal's men that talking to his wife that David was kind and nothing was missing. So now he telling her, he told her everything that was there. And now he's telling her, think about it, and then see what you can do about it. Because she the wise one. She the intelligent. So that's why he told her think about it and see what you can do. Because the disaster is hanging over our master. You know, and his whole household. So when he told her that, so now they want to take your husband out. They want to take your whole household out. So your husband is a wicked man. He telling her your husband is a wicked man. He said no one cannot talk to him or reason with him. So the white Gabrielle, she act quickly. And she took food. She took everything she needed. Cause when she going out to try to reason with David. So they gotta always bring a gift. So Gabrielle act quickly and she took food, the donkey, and she told her servant, she said, y'all go ahead, you know, and now I follow you, but she did not tell her husband. So she going to talk on his behalf. So when she arrived to David, David explained that he watching over, the federal property, in the wilderness, so that nothing was be missing. So that's what he telling her his wife. He was saying, that that nothing was missing. He was watching over his field. And that's all he had to do was be show kindness right back to David. So he had paid me back evil for good. So when Gabrielle had saw David, she quickly, got off her donkey, and bowed down. That's what I'm saying. That this intelligent woman. She going on the behalf of her husband and acting a fool, acting rude and disrespectful. So she going there apologize to David. So when she saw David, she bowed down as a respect. She bowed down before David, with her face down to the ground, and she fell at his feet. So now, his wife didn't waste. She didn't waste no time. Cause he said, think about it and see what you can do. She ain't had no time to be thinking about it. She got some food together, and she got on her donkey, and she zoomed over there by David, and so his wife didn't waste no time. She intelligent. She had discernment, to stand in the behalf of her husband, who is evil, and acting a fool, just like his name is. So she speak to David. They were about to get on his donkey. He was about to head on by her household and do everybody in. So at first he wasn't gonna stop. So he stopped to listen to her. Cause at first he said, I need to. She said, I need to speak to you. So she speak to David, and please pay no attention, to her husband. He's a wicked man and foolish, and she stated that she wasn't there. So she stated she wasn't there. She wasn't there. And David gave her, and her men, gifts. Gabrielle had pleas for forgiveness. She said, please forgive my husband. He is a foolish man. She said, forgive my husband. She said, I wasn't there, but forgive my husband. So David was in no mode to listen, because he was getting ready to get on his donkey, and he was about to go over there to her house, but he was set out for her husband's property. So nevertheless, that he stopped it for her, for Gabrielle. He had to say, if he had ignored her, if David would have ignored her, he would have been guilty of taking revenge into his own hands. He, if he wouldn't have stopped and listened to her, so no matter how right we may think we are, we must always be careful to stop and listen to others. Now David did. At first he wasn't. He was rushing, but he wind up and stopped and listened to her. So he stopped and listened to her, and David did the extra time and effort can save us pain and trouble in the long run. Because if he want to stop to listen to her, for her apologize for her husband acting a fool, he would have went straight over there and to kill every last one that was in that household. When this woman here was trying to explain to him, but luckily he did stop and he listened, to her plea for her husband. So even though what David, with his own life, you know, why he moved over there, to the desert to get away from someone who pursued him, to take his life. The life of my Lord would be bound security in the bondage of deliverance by the Lord your God. Now he dealing with that, and somebody always, saw wants to take his life. See, he got away and moved in the desert and moved right next to a man said, who is me, just like so. So after they finished talking, may you be blessed for your good judgment and for keeping me from bloodshedding this day and from avenging myself with my own hands. Because if he wouldn't have stopped, like he said, he would have had blood on his own hands and then he would have to deal with God. Because God know this woman heart that she was coming to plead to you. But luckily he stopped and he listened to her. You know. So his wife, was very smart. She act quick, to save her and her whole household. And if she wouldn't have went, and meet David, David was already headed to her house. So she got there in the nick of time. David stopped, he listened, and now lives have been saved. So the Lord, the God of Israel lives, who had kept me from harming you, and if you had not come quickly, if she had not come quickly, see, after that servant had got through talking to her, it said he about to harm your husband and the whole household. She hurried up and gathered some food and stuff and got in that donkey and left. She left quickly to meet him. Not one male belonging to Nabal would have been alive, left alive. That's what he told her, So David had a gift for her, but now David had accepted from her hand what she had brought him. Remember, she left out with gifts too. So they both getting each other gifts. She said, so he said, go home in peace. And David heard and granted her request. He granted her request that he's not going to harm her husband or the household. So while she is saving her household, and she came home, her husband is holding a banquet. Now, why is she doing all that? Her husband at home giving a banquet, and he drinking and getting drunk. And the next day, when he was sober, so she couldn't talk to him when she got home because she was drunk. So she had to wait till the next day when he got sober, and then his wife told him all these things that he had said and done to a person that was being nice and being kind to him. So she telling him everything that the servant had told her, what David had told her, and then his heart fell. His heart fell, and then he became like a stone. And about 10 days later, the Lord struck him and he died. So he messing with David. He must have knew who he was messing with. He must have knew who he was talking to like that. God is right there protecting David. God gonna protect and monitor David until David walk into his purpose. And till then, they have to watch how they talk to David. So her husband died, of wickedness. And now David heard, David don't waste no time either. Now David heard that her husband died, and he said, praise be to the Lord. So he already know that was God doing. God was in the mix, so he know that was God doing. He said, praise be the Lord, who had upheld my cause against Gabriel, Nabal, for treating me with contempt. So he know that was God doing. He know that was God doing. With this man here, treating him with contempt. So now David was already, David already have a wife, at home, daughter, Monica, so now David has sent a word to Gabriel, asking her to become his wife. Now she didn't waste time either. Her husband just died, so when David had said, asked her to be my wife, David's servant arrived there. She said, oh, okay. She bowed down. She said, I'll wash his feet. Now that was a good wife that he had, and that good wife about to go on to David. She about to wash his feet and everything else. So she said, I'll wash his. She said, okay, I'll wash his feet. So we see that she will be a good wife. Talking about washing his feet. Gabrielle quickly got on her donkey, and she went to David messenger and became his wife. You know, so David also married a Hebrew. I can't pronounce her name, but another woman came along, and he married both of them. But he also married to Saul's daughter Monica. Now he got her at home, and then I remember I used to always tell this story all the time. David was always running from Saul. But as he running from Saul, he picking up all these wives. So and now and he on his journey. For 20 years before he got to be king over Israel. Now we in the story that I'm always talking about. Now he on the run with Saul. He's still on his journey to be in training to be the king over Israel, but he picking up these wives. So David moved to the desert away from Saul, and this rich man lived next to the land. And David loved working in a field because he'd been doing that since he was a child. And David was watching out, making sure nothing was missing. So that festival was going on, and David had sent his men there and to show kindness that he was watching over this man's sheep, and could he give his men some food. But this man was rude and he was disrespectful, and David told him, David what all had happened. So David had wanted to take out him and the whole household. The rich man's wife had think quick and asked David to forgive her husband, and she was not, she was not there. She started saying, I was not there. So David forgave her husband, and she had, and then she lived. So her husband was mean to David, and his heart had fear. And then God struck him down, and he died. So David you know, heard that her husband died, and he wanted to marry her, and he married another woman that came along, and he already have a wife at home. So we see that he on the run, and he also is still working for God, and he still picking up these wives, and we see that this woman here was very intelligent, just like David said, and she also had discernment. She was able, just like our sermon told her, just think about it, and see what you can do about it. She thought about it. She got her little food and donkey, and she went to David to apologize for her husband for being rude. She said, I was not there, but please forgive my husband for his wickedness. So that's all the story I have for you tonight. David and this rich man and Gabrielle. And that's another thing. This rich man was rich, but he refused to help someone because he was being mean and he was being rude. And see, when God bless you, God wants you to bless others. When someone say they hungry, someone said they need something to eat, they need some clothes, or then whatever the case is, God bless you, to be a blessing. So that's all I have for you today. Y'all have a nice night, and I'll see y'all on the next video.